Hey guys, what's up? Josie back here again, and we're going to talk about the number one news story that's been circulating around the NFL the last couple of weeks, and that is that the Jalen Ramsey has requested a trade out of Jacksonville. He wants gone, and one of the teams that are a top buyer is your Minnesota Vikings. So we had to talk about how this could happen and why it could make sense for both teams to get this done as soon as possible. So let's start off. And just looking at Jalen Ramsey, what he's known for, he's a fifth-round pick, or fifth overall pick in the first round. Extremely highly talented cornerback for the Jaguars and has absolutely lived up to that name. He's been sensational, I think, without a doubt. Most people would say he's at the very least a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. I think you would still get a lot of people argue that he's top 3. Some even say he's the best. He's extremely talented in a system where Mike Zimmer could use his talents to the best of his ability. I could see that as a very high possibility as well. And what he's also known for is being a little bit cocky. I know last offseason he talked trash about every single quarterback and put a little target on his back, but still lived up to his name. He's a huge trash talker. But Mike Zimmer is no stranger to trash talkers. He trash talked primetime Deion Sanders when he was with Dallas. So Zimmer would have no problem handling Jalen. And I think he would actually love that type of cocky attitude out there on the outside, especially when he walks his walk as well. So that's why Jalen Ramsey is so great right now. And he's on his last year of his rookie contract, so he obviously wants to get paid. But the Vikings could figure it out. You may backload the contract like they usually do. Brzezinski, Spielman, they are cap wizards. They'll figure out the deal. But let's look at some of the pieces that the Vikings might be trying to dump. Namely, since Ramsey's a cornerback, let's look at some of the Vikings' potential cornerbacks. And number one, obviously, is Xavier Rhodes. Rhodes had an elite year a couple years ago. The Vikings gave him a huge deal, which is currently the 4th most in the NFL, where he got $70 million, signed a $70 million contract with $20 million guaranteed. He is starting to get to the point of his contract where it's a lot less guarantees. In 2020, it will really start to show. Where his cap number would be 12.9 if he stays on the team, but you could cut him and save 8.1, leaving only $4.8 million of dead cash out there that Rhodes would still get. So 8.1 saved, which means he's in a position where a team could easily restructure him and be best for both parties and give Rhodes more guarantees. So if he continues to decline, if he stays with the Vikings or goes to Jacksonville or wherever, he's in a situation where he could be looking for a restructure very soon. But also, the Vikings have 2 more cornerbacks who could potentially be thrown into this trade. But I don't think they make quite as much sense while looking at Trey Waynes, been the Vikings' number 2 cornerback the last couple of years, and has kind of sort of lived up to his first round grade. He's been a starter, but went against 2s almost his entire time, and has been consistently solid. You don't ever see him make so many splashy plays, but he's been a premier tackling cornerback, and you just don't see him get blown past much at all, and his penalties has gone way down. So he's been a consistent cornerback, probably not number 1 corner on many teams, but definitely good. And with the Jacksonville Jaguars probably having the second best defensive back coaches behind the Vikings, they would have a good opportunity to squeeze even more talent out of Waynes. But another option, that would be option number 3 for corners, would be Mackenzie Alexander, and he would be the definition of selling high. He's coming off of his best 8 weeks in the NFL. He was sensational for the second half of last year, but he is coming off a bit of an injury, but he's also in the last year of his contract. So the team is confident that he'll come back healthy and look good, he'd be a very essential piece for many teams that are trying to get more pieces on their team. And as far as the Vikings are concerned, Jaron Kearse has played phenomenal as the nickel. So losing him when you have Jaron and Mike Hughes, who can play nickel just fine, might not be that big of a deal when you probably won't be able to re-sign him anyways, much like Trey Wayne. So we're in a situation where we have a ton of cornerbacks that are in the area where it's either restructured, maybe cut in the Rhodes case, or they'll end up leaving. And Jalen Ramsey is available and would be instant upgrade. He would be much younger than Rhodes and already better than Rhodes. So this would be a great time to make this happen, and it would benefit both teams, well, namely the Vikings, a lot. So the Jaguars are in a situation where, much like the Vikings, they don't have much cap room, and they don't have a Brzezinski. So signing Jalen Ramsey to a huge contract might be a bit out of their time, or they might not be able to do it. I would expect Jalen Ramsey to want top cornerback money. So Josh Norman is currently the top paid cornerback, and he's getting a $75 million contract with $36.5 million guaranteed. I'll expect the neighborhood of $40 million guaranteed for Ramsey, and probably around an $80 million contract in that range. So it'd be a lot of money, but I think the Vikings could figure it out, especially when you add on it's just a little bit of a more expensive version of Rhodes, and I think you would expect he would be getting better as his contract progresses instead of worse in Rhodes' case. So let's look at it, and let's look at some possible trade options. So of course, when the Vikings are going to get Ramsey, if this would happen, the Vikings would most likely have a pretty horrible draft spot anyways. So a first round pick would probably be in the late 20s, and we're all hoping for 32. So if the Vikings would ideally have a horrible first round pick, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are looking for at least a mid-first round pick, so we'll need a whole lot of talent on the other side of it, and the Vikings will probably have to up their draft round options for their compensation for Ramsey just to fill in that gap, since we probably won't have a whole lot of value in our draft picks. So let's look at some options that will also include some veteran players that will suck some of the cap down for the Vikings, so we'll be able to sign Ramsey easier. So number one, the easiest, most simple option that would help both teams, straight up Xavier Rhodes, first round pick, and maybe throw in a conditional fourth rounder, so the Vikings have a ton of late round picks, so that's fine, for straight up Jalen Ramsey. This one, simple. Both teams retain their starting cornerback. Both teams get what they really want. The Jaguars get more picks for the future, because this team will be rebuilding for the next 20 years. And the Vikings will be getting yet another back-to-back seasons where we might get that piece that will take us over the top for that Super Bowl. And I think the Vikings would love this one, and the Vikings would potentially be able to stop every single offense easy with Jalen Ramsey, and you really don't lose a lot with that first round pick in Rhodes. That fourth round is whatever, and the Vikings would be just fine. Moving on, number two. This one's a bit more interesting. That'd be my more favorite one. And this one is Rhodes and Rudolph. With how Irv Smith had played great week 3, the Vikings might say, all right, Rudolph, I love you. David Morgan will be back soon, but we don't need you. Conklin, Morgan, and Irv will be fine. Rudolph, go to Jacksonville. DeFilippo needs a tight end, even though he didn't use Rudolph great last year at all. You would think that he would love a Zach Ertz type of a player. I don't think there's a more similar tight end in the NFL to Zach Ertz than Kyle Rudolph. So that should make a whole lot of sense for DeFilippo to want over there in Jacksonville. And then to sweeten the pot a little bit, I only throw in a third rounder here. So this is a situation where the Vikings just dump all of their cap. They lose Rhodes, lose Rudolph, not big losses for the time being. You instantly replace Rhodes with Ramsey, that's fine. And you would instantly just increase Irv Smith's playing time. Tyler Conklin will get a lot more in the time being as well. And we even have a couple of tight ends on the practice squad. We are loaded at this position. That is very expendable right now. And a third rounder is just a sweeten the pot. And I think it'd be helpful for both teams. This is probably my favorite trade proposal I have. But number 3, my last one. We have Rhodes, Mackenzie Alexander, and Rudolph. The Vikings keep their draft capital, and Rick Spielman dies happy knowing that he gets all of his draft picks, trades off these veteran losers. Sorry, Mackenzie Alexander. And we get Jalen Ramsey straight without losing a draft pick. This one would be great as far as I love draft picks and make draft day really boring if we lose them, but probably not as likely due to the fact of throwing 2 cornerbacks away would be a tough pill to swallow, even though we have Mike Hughes back. Jaron Curse is filling in great as a nickel. And it would be tough to just get rid of 2 cornerbacks for 1. Even if Jalen Ramsey gives the Vikings a little bit more durability than Xavier Rhodes has ever had, I think we would rather have a little bit more depth. But I could see something like this happening. I really wouldn't even be mad if we even say swap third-round picks as part of this trade to give the Jaguars a little, or probably like a Vikings give them a third, we get their fourth, something like that, to swing the pot a little bit more. And also for all of these trade options, I have Rhodes in it, but I think Trey Waynes has a very similar trade value as Rhodes, so you could swap them in. I'm not sure which one would make more sense. I think if you want the best talent on the field in 2019, Waynes probably makes a hair more sense for us to trade. And since he's not in a big contract right now, Trey Waynes might have similar trade value just because, sure, his talent's not as good as Rhodes right now, but he's cheaper. So that might make the Jags want Waynes a bit more than they would want Rhodes. So if you want to do a Trey Waynes only trade proposal, I would say you probably have to do like the first one where it's Trey Waynes, then you probably throw in Rudolph, and then probably still a first or second round pick to make the Jaguars bite at that. But that would be fun as well, and I think this would be a hard trade to pull off. We probably aren't the top contending team, but if he wants to win, he knows where to go. So give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think any of these trade proposals would make it? I'm curious whether or not Madden would say they're okay too. But give me your trade proposals in the comment section down below and vote in the top right corner whether you think the Vikings would be able to pull this trade off or if it's just a dream. Tell me that, and we'll see you guys in the next Josie Vikings video. See you guys then.